color and the characteristics of being black. So as I'm listening to this conversation, I agree with most of what you guys are saying. I don't want to fully put the color on us, but I think it helps us as we grow up as children to understand the world's perspective of how they see black people and what black, the color, actually means.
Mm. Yeah, I can agree with that perspective of what you're saying, and this is the thing because for your daughter being the age she is, that was only natural for her mind at her young age to go there because she's taught colors in school and things of that nature. So when you say black to her, of course she thinks of a black crayon. And to have to explain it to her at such a young age is what I'm finding that we have to do and have these conversations with the younger generation as a whole because the same thing happened with a situation with my grandkids who are biracial and they are asking the question, am I black and am I white and I'm not black like the crayon or white like the crayon. So how am I black and white? It's crazy, but yes, I agree
Yeah.
totally. You have to talk about, how the world sees us, the character of you, not the actual color like the color of a crayon, but just like I said, it's such a social construct that how we got to find ways to have the conversation because
Right.
Uh,
it's happening young. It's happening
Very.
young.
Yeah, very
well,
young.
Mhm.
they're coming to understanding at a younger age for sure. My eldest son brought it to my attention first, the black crayon thing, but it was actually him describing the little girl that had given him her phone number because he had drawn a picture of he and this little girl, a peach complected girl, uh, underneath the rainbow holding hands, and underneath she'd written her phone number on it. And I was like, oh, hell, this is trouble in the making right here. And
Mm.
so I asked him about the picture and the crayons that he used to just, to explain the picture. And so I agree that children do see are very literal for quite a long time. Yet we do have to have to be able to explain to them the world sees you one way, no matter how you see yourself. And it takes some time to be able to have those conversations. And um, we don't always get it right, but we do try. But when you said the color black, I wanted to say one of the things that I wanted my sons to understand, and I wrote that opening to the song from F.L. Rouds, is that we are the color born in darkness, because you understand that all color comes from the color black, not the other way around.
Hmm.
Mm.
Um, and so when you explain that to children, you can, it's just an opportunity to understand color and build a through line where, there's still beauty in each of those colors. It's just understanding where they are in how you make your art, and how you can use them in different ways and dynamics. You just have to have the conversation in a different way. That's
Yeah.
the thing. But we are, as far as the world and society and where we are today is concerned, we are black people. And we aren't
Hmm.
fighting for the bottom. The ones who are actually at the bottom of the moment are, I'm sorry, are Hispanics, Mexicans specifically. Those coming over, supposed illegals, right? Because we were illegal at one point, fresh out of slavery. And it only took 10 years for us to divide ourselves.
Mm.
Yeah. You know
Yeah.
what's interesting? Um,
Hmm.
Go ahead.
just real quickly, something that's very interesting is a part of an industry that I'm in. Y- always heard that some people think that the white man or white woman's water is ice colder. And what I've learned through my business tenure is that some of the white people, if you will, or even European people, are some of the most financed people in the world. And the finance people, they never get an opportunity to actually own their homes. They get approved for the mortgages, they get approved for the loans, but they're some of the most financed people that live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm gonna do a stream on this at some point, of exposing the fact that the way they look at black people when it comes to finances and owning property and things of that nature, we're actually very successful. And I dislike the fact that a lot of people look at black people or the color black as something so negative when we're the most sought after people on the planet. And when I say sought after, I'm talking about our stories, right? Our hair texture, the way we do things in fashion, you know. And it's something that's not nationally or even widely televised. It's trying to get there, but it just amazes me, to see this dynamic happening in the world.
Yeah, we are trendsetters, right? Like everybody wants to follow our trends. They like our skin, our hair, our lips, our the way we shaped, certain things about us until it's time to be us. That's what I said. Everybody want to be black till it's time to be black.
Hmm.
You know
Yep.
what I mean? So it's a sort of like that, right? And
Yep.
I think the best representation that we can show our children as what it means to be black, if we're going to continue to have this word on us until it changes again. Actually, Jesse Jackson gave African American in the 80s, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. And everybody is not of African descent, so that's why
Hmm.
I say it's so important. If as many of us that can really want to know our lineage, want to know your history, you really should do it. I always speak of it on panels. I did it, and I think it's important, to know exactly who you are, if you do have any African ancestry, what part, what lineage, what's your background with that. I think it's important because we are a lost identity of people, because when we were brought over here, everything was ripped away from us, and that's why our race of people is in such need to feel needed and to feel like we have to belong to something. That's why we join sororities. That's why we join clubs. That's why we join this and we join that. Is because we have no sense of identity of self, that we bought into what they told us we should buy into.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's what I talk about on my channel, is that total belief in like self, being successful within yourself, right? Because the world is so huge when it comes to the internet. And I was caught up in, oh, I better do this with big box retail, and if I get in with this in crowd, they're gonna accept me. And then come to find out that I could do it myself. I don't need a third party. I don't need anyone
Mm-hmm.
else. And I started honing in on that and giving people what I thought was the best of me. So as I'm raising my child and I'm having a relationship with my wife, as a man, I have to sit down and I have to always constantly lead, always constantly teach, right? Because I have to lead by example. And
Mm-hmm.
again, that color black, I hate and I dislike the fact that it's associated with so much negativity, because when I see my black people, I don't see no robber, I don't see no thief, I don't see no drug dealer, I don't see what other people see. I see somebody trying to make their way, and they may be a little misguided, but I don't think the worst of them. So when I'm
Exactly, and
out,
and that's what's being perpetuated though by
yeah,
the
yeah,
predominant race is that black. When you look at it, they want you to look at that black crayon as dark and scary and gloomy and like all of the negative things, when it's brilliant and it's rich and it's all those other things, that we come from as well. So that's what I try to represent and uplift in my black community, in my family, in my grandchildren, in my, I did that in my son, is that even when James Brown came out with "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud," it was a sense of pride for us back in the '70s when that song came out. And I taught it to my son. lift every voice and sing, to be young, gifted, and black. Like all of those things meant the greatness of our people, of where they come from, and persevere with greatness. So that's the light that we need to continue to shine upon our race. If you want to label us as black, we're going to represent it in the light that I grew up with it to be, and that was a sense of pride and power.
Right. Yeah, I
And
totally agree.
speaking of when you were talking about the finance and even in the housing, the financial institutes and the housing system, I just read something a couple of days ago where the banks are still discriminating against African Americans when it comes to home ownership. I just read something recently where Wells Fargo was back in the news again, where they have absolutely discriminated against during the pandemic people that wanted to refinance. They discriminated against more black people than they did any other race of people. And I just read that about a week ago. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
when people, it really kills me when people say that that systemic racism does not exist, it's not happening. That's because it hasn't happened to you doesn't mean it's not happening.
Right.
It's happening. You know what I mean? So to even know that these things are still still happening now in 2022, as we read articles, as we see things happening in the world, it's a real thing. And because it's not happening to you doesn't mean it's not happening.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And again, when we were talking about the whole policing situation, of course, police is going to be biased on the side of what they have viewed, what they've worked, the communities, what they've seen, and that's understandable. And I'm not saying that a police view of problematic in the black community is not real, because it is real, right? Because we know our crime is up, our murder rates is up and things of that. Yes, we know that. But to only say that it's only that is majority of the reason is because of what we're doing to ourselves, that I won't buy into, because there is race things of when it comes to crime is always perpetuated by somebody of the same race as them majority of the time, right?
Hmm.
So if you are in a black community and there's crime going on in the black community, 9 times out of 10 is done by a black person. If you are in a predominantly white community and the crime is going on, it's predominantly done by from one white person to another. Same as Hispanic, same as Asian. So it kills me when you know, and it's like people like to use that as a reason to say, if we say, well, disproportionately, the police officers are killing black men and women more disproportionately than any other race. Yeah, but it's black on black crime, and why are we killing each other? We know we know that it's the problem, but to say that in the same sentence, that it's two different things. It's two separate situations. We know we got a problem in the black community that we need to work on and resolve when it comes to black on black crime, aka black on black crime, just like anybody else would in their own community with their own race crime against each other. It's no different.
Hmm.
But when we try to say it one thing for another, that's when it becomes problematic.